Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matt. Welcome to today's webinar. It's part of a series of the Data Management 2025 badge, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there. Now, today we're on episode 4, or part 4, whichever you want to call it, and it's clearing your audit trail, something that I briefly touched on in the data management tool in the second installment of this actual badging series itself. So, talking about the badging series, let's just be a bit more clearer on it. So we're getting a digital badge from Credible. You've got to attend 5 out of 7 of the topics, all in relation to the Data Management 2025 badge as seen in front of you. As I say, we're up to 4, which is clearing your audit trail to remove all transactions. So if you've attended every single one so far, just one more for you, and then you'll be able to rest and then just attend the quiz. Preferably you join all of them, because all of them have brilliant tips and hidden bits of knowledge and what have you inside. But then once you've attended 5 of 7, 6 of 7, 7 of 7, whichever, you must attend the quiz. It is mandatory to be at the quiz. That's what unlocks the badge to be sent out to you. So today, installment 4, clearing your audit trail. What is covered in today's webinar? Well, first off, we're going to be looking at what does it do? So clearing audit trail, what is it? What are the criteria you need to have in order to be able to successfully perform this task? So what are the main points and criteria that you must be there? So if you do choose to do it, what are the rules? Then we're going to look at preparation. So how can you perfectly prepare for a successful CAT, clear audit trail? Then we're going to go into demonstration, because I think, like always, it's best to see these things in action so you can see me navigating the screens and potential pop-ups that you may see. Then finally, there's a section on why haven't my transactions cleared, which will be explained throughout this webinar, but I'm going to touch on it and circle back to it at the end just to explain that sometimes when you do perform this task, not everything is deleted that you wanted to be deleted. There are reasons why, and there's also a solution. Happy days. After that, we'll be going through some further support and obviously the questions as well. With regards to questions, let's go over the housekeeping. So if you've been here before, you'll know the rules. If not, these are the rules, essentially. Your microphone is muted. So if you cough or sneeze, we're not going to hear you. You won't be interjecting on anything or interrupting any flow whatsoever. So feel free to make as much noise as you like. The handouts are attached, so one black and white and one in colour as well. The colour one, obviously, you can leave on your screen, but the black and white one's there just in case you want to print it out. You want to print it out and write on it. That's the old-fashioned way. That's what I do. Also, we have Abby in the forum today. So if you've got any questions, Abby will be answering them for you. I'll try my best to answer as many as I can as well in the allotted time. It's around about 45 minutes. I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably going to be around about 35-minute webinar. The subject matter itself is quite easy once you've picked it up, but it's just getting to grips with it, I think, essentially first. And we're going to cover that in the first 5 or 6 slides. So without further ado, let's get straight into the subject matter. Clear audit trail. So what does it do? Well, essentially the Clear Audit Trail tool removes transactions from the audit trail that meet specific criteria. And we're going to go over that criteria momentarily, don't worry. But essentially, if I can quickly dive into my program here, when we talk about audit trail, we're talking about your transactions list. Okay, so this is your live audit trail here. This is what you're working with in your live company data. If you are to archive or take a backup, you are creating an audit trail there as well, essentially a record of your audit trail, but this is the live one that you're working with in your live data. And this is the one that we're going to be affecting today when we go through the process. So a clear audit trail is to remove transactions from the audit trail, that transactions list that meets specific criteria. If required, it'll also post an opening balance journal for the transactions that are removed, taking care of anything else that you may think you have to do manually. Sage will do it for you. And it also creates an audit trail history. So what we mean by that is a report, so you can see what has been cleared. So if ever you do need to reflect back on, hang on a minute, did I delete this one? Then you can refer back to this list and any transactions that have been deleted will be there. Good fun. So that's the purpose of it. Common questions that we get. Have I got to do this? No, quite simply, you don't have to do this. This is completely up to you. We do have a recommended data limit, transactions limit, or you might see it written down as splits, S-P-L-I-T-S, and that is 250,000 transactions. Now, this isn't written in stone, it's a recommendation. Your network, your hardware, your internet might be powerful enough or quick enough to support more or less. But we see on average 250,000 transactions is at the point in which the program potentially may start to struggle and slow down a wee bit. So we say anywhere near there, then yes, you potentially want to have a look at Clear Audit Trail. It's still not mandatory at that stage, it's just recommended. When and how often? Two very similar questions there. Well, again, if you are going to perform this process, some tend to do it at year end. They clear off a year, box it all off, and then they will clear Audit Trail and get rid of that year. So they're starting afresh again. As long as you're archiving and backing up, then you know you've created those insurance policies, the saved points that you can always return back to. So when and how often, again, good questions, but because it's not a mandatory process, again, it's completely up to you. There's only kind of best practice that you can think of. Pros and cons. Again, the pros of doing a Clear Audit Trail is keeping that data set trim, keeping the data relevant to what you need to find. Instead of looking through pages and pages of this, that, and the other, trying to find that one record, it's going to be easier to find. So you're taking that needle in a haystack kind of variant out of the equation altogether, things will be quicker for you. Cons are that if you're deleting a large amount of data, it's gone. Yes, you'll have backups and archives, so you can reflect back if you need that data whatsoever, but it's not going to be there at your fingertips. That's the only con that I could potentially think of doing this. But as long as you're taking backups, and you would have heard me say it countless times, you're going to be all right because you've got copies of the data that has been removed potentially. Now we'll move on to the criteria. As I said at the top bullet point there, remove transactions from the audit trail that meets specific criteria. If you've downloaded the handout, brilliant, because you're going to have this. If not, then I would suggest you download the handout, because having this at your fingertips is going to help you learn what the criteria is when you're doing the Clear Audit Trail. So first things first, when you're clearing an audit trail, you're clearing up to and including a date that you specify. So for the sake of ease, let's say you're clearing your data from the 1st of the 1st up to, sorry, the 1st of the 1st, 2024. That's going to delete everything, including everything on New Year's Day 2024. So everything that precedes that date is going to be deleted if it meets the rest of the criteria as well. Because remember, you have to meet every single piece of this criteria in order for something to be deleted. Second thing, must be dated prior to your current financial year. So if you haven't closed off the year in which this transaction lies, it's not going to be deleted, because Sage is basically saying to you, you probably still need this because you haven't closed off the year. So Sage isn't going to allow you to delete something that you potentially still need. Otherwise, that could cause problems, couldn't it? So it's like kind of a fail-safe, a safety mechanism. If you haven't moved your financial year onwards, Sage will not allow you to delete anything. It's an easy solve. Close off your financial year. Transactions have to be fully paid. So invoices fully paid. If you've got a credit note and an invoice for the same amount, but they aren't allocated together, they're not going to be deleted, because Sage doesn't magically know that those two, even though the amounts are the same, and you can guess that they're meant to be together, Sage doesn't know for definite. It could be coincidence. So you have to allocate that payment or credit note to that invoice. Then that part of the business is complete. Therefore, it can be deleted in a Clear Audit Trail. So Sage needs to know that X belongs to Y. Everything must be finished. And that goes on for the rest of the criteria, I must say. So bank reconciled, VAT reconciled, making sure that everything's closed off and accounted for. Nothing can go missing. More kind of abstract with your CIS reconciliation. Again, business has to be complete. Same with gift aid and charities. Everything has to be completed. Sage will not let you delete it in this process unless it knows it's no longer needed or required. And that leads into the final point there, which, if allocated, all linked transactions must meet all of the above criteria. Bit of a sentence, that one. But to explain it, we've created a slide here. Again, if you've downloaded the handout, you'll be able to go over this yourselves afterwards, but it's quite self-explanatory once you get to grips with it. So what we have here is we've got an SI and an SR invoice, and it says receipt here. So the date on this is the 30th of the 12th, 2023. And if I was to do a clear audit trail up until, let's just say, the 14th, up to and including the 14th of December 2023, this wouldn't be deleted because it's part of this transaction here as well. And although this sales invoice meets the criteria of the date in which I said, and it also has been VAT reconciled, remember there's no need to bank reconcile an invoice, but it's been VAT reconciled, it meets the criteria date, so it's perfect for deletion. However, what it's linked to doesn't meet the criteria because this date is the 12th of January 2024, which exceeds the date of the 14th of December 23. Therefore, this will not be deleted. Also, the eagle-eyed might have seen as well, this hasn't been bank reconciled. So Sage doesn't know that it's been finished with. So if I then thought to myself, right, well, I'll do a clear audit trail up until the 13th of January 2024. Now, these two criteria both fall inside that date range, but it's still not bank reconciled. So you'd have to reconcile this with the bank, have a date range of the 13th of January 2024, and then these two transactions could then be deleted because they are complete. So hopefully that makes sense. Because they are linked, you can't delete all of it because the latter part doesn't meet the criteria. A, on date, and B, not bank reconciled. Once this is bank reconciled, and I do put the date in for the 13th of January 2024, this is going to be cleared. Good question that's just come in from Louise, which I'm going to touch on near the end. I know Abby's just picked that up there. The question is, if you try to clear audit trail, would Sage flag that transaction that doesn't meet the criteria? We have a tool for that, and I'll be going over that later in the webinar for you. That's a very good question. So they essentially are the criteria. Just to quickly flick back to that one. Dated on or before the date you specify, must be dated prior to the current financial year, fully paid, bank reconciled, VAT reconciled, CIS reconciled if applicable, same with gift aid reconciled if applicable. And if allocated, all linked transactions must meet that criteria. If your transaction is a yes in all of these, when you run the clear audit trail process, it will be deleted. If it's a no in any single one of them that's applicable, it won't be deleted. So how do we prepare? First off, check your data. Do a health check. File, maintenance. Make sure all your numbers are correct and everything is nice and healthy. No errors to report or anything like that at all. Then, most importantly, once you know you've got a healthy version of your data, back it up. Archive at the same time. Print any reports that you need as required. While those transactions are still in your live data, run the reports, management reports if needs be. But get the information that you need in a report before you delete the transactions, because once you've deleted the transactions, then you're going to have the numbers in the program in order to regenerate them. Remember, just journals that create the opening balances, not the transactions themselves. Allocate any transactions. So, like I've been explaining, go through your transaction list if you can, if it's short enough, small enough, and allocate these transactions to what they need to be allocated to. Finish this unfinished business so that you know that when you run the process, it's going to delete successfully. Reconcile your bank accounts as well, or switch it off if you're not going to reconcile them. I can show you how to do that in just a moment. But reconcile any bank accounts to make sure they're all up to date within the period in which you're going to perform the clear audit trail. So if you're clear audit trailing, let's say all of 2023, it may not be relevant to reconcile your bank account up in August this month. Just make sure that the months that are going to be included in this clear audit trail are going to be reconciled. Same with the VAT periods as well. Reconcile your VAT. Tick off as much of that criteria as you possibly can before you run this. Before we run into the demonstration, which is next, top tips and things to think of. First off, are you sure you want to be deleting this information? Yes, you've taken a backup in an archive. Is it right for you to do so? Speak to the data owner, or maybe just run a pros and cons list yourself. Do I need to do it? Essentially. When to clear up as well. Think about that. How much are you going to be taking out? How much data are you going to be clearing? Do you really want to clear up until yesterday? Or do you want to clear up and say, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago? Depending on the amount of data that you've got, and depending on what's happening with your program, can dictate when you want to clear up to. If you've got transactions from 2009 in there, you're probably not going to need them in your live data. So yes, take a backup or an archive. Good question from Jackie there. Can reports be run from archive data if you haven't run a report prior to clearing the audit trail? Yes, they can do, because you're running a report within that archive based on the information that is in that archive itself. So you can do that, correct. Good question, keep them coming in. So let's have a look at the demonstration. It's quite a quick demonstration, to be honest with you. It's quite an easy thing to find. A couple of things I'm going to point out in the program first, though, just so you can get a better understanding of what's going to be happening. As I said, this is your audit trail, your transactions list on the left-hand side. You got your transaction numbers here. Now, these aren't going to change just because you delete them all. Let's just say magically I deleted 5,088 transactions. The next transaction I enter wouldn't be 1. It would continue 5,089, for example. A good question in from Paul. How do you know if you have 250,000 plus records? I'm just about to show you that one now, Paul. So these transaction numbers will continue from this. It won't start again, don't worry. Your transactions are available on the bottom right-hand screen there, 5,088. That's your movements. But also, if I quickly jump into help and about, and I scroll down, you want to be looking in your middle column, data information, and there's the word splits right there. So help and about, and then data information in the middle, 5,088. You'll notice there as well, it says last transaction number, 5,088. Good bit of information here. But this is the one that you want to be looking at. But again, that's just an advisory number. Okay, so your program could be running slow at 150,000. It could be running lightning quick at 350,000. It's down to user experience, and also down to what information you want to keep as well. So that's where you would find out where your splits are, and your transaction number is. A couple of bits of information, and this is obviously your audit trail right there. So if we start from the beginning, what we're going to be doing here is accessing clear audit trail. So tools, period end, clear audit trail. That easy. Once you click on that, it'll always ask you this question. Closes all other open windows. We've got none, and we've got no unsafe data, so I'm fine to continue with that as well. And it'll bring up the clear audit trail window, which again is quite self-explanatory. Goes through everything that I've mentioned in the previous slides there. Transactions can only be removed if they are dated, fully paid, bank and VAT reconciled, allocated transactions meeting the same criteria. Again, remember that link. They all have to be linked. Clear transactions up to and including, and this is where you get to pick your days. Now, if I was to pick, I'll type it in, it'll be quicker. The 13th of August, 2025, click clear audit trail. It's not going to allow me because I haven't closed off my financial year beyond the 1st of January 2024. So again, fail safe there. So you just say, no, you can't do that because you basically haven't closed your year off, Matt. And it'll do the same for you as well. So I'm going to stick to the date that was there, which I believe was the 31st, the 12th. I'm going to go to 2023 actually, because my date, remember, was the 1st of January 2024. So I'm allowed to clear up until the 31st of December 2023, up to and including. So once you've picked your date and you're happy with it, it will also mention that these two bank accounts here have the reconciliation turned on but haven't been reconciled in the last 12 months. Now, these could be accounts that you don't use much and you never reconcile because there's no transactions in them. So what you can do, if that is the case, is just turn off the bank reconciliation. And this then prevents transactions within these accounts not being deleted because they haven't been reconciled. So if you do have few and far between in there, you're not too bothered about reconciling them for whatever reason it may be, then essentially just turn that off. And then what you'll do is you'll click on Clear Audit Trail. Now, as soon as I've clicked on Clear Audit Trail, look what pops up. Automatic backup. So Sage is telling me now, hang on a minute, you haven't backed up yet. So before you delete everything, please save a copy. Best practice here is completely up to yourselves. What I would say is data files are what we're going to be looking at, trimming down. So do a backup of the data files. Again, what you could call this is you could call it pre-clear audit trail, pre-cat, up to the date that you're doing. So this was the 31st of the 12th, 2023. Location, I'm just going to save this to my desktop, wherever that's gone. There it is there. Then I'll click OK. Oop, forgot about the characters. Apologies. Would you like to check your data? Yes. Now I'm going to do this in front of you now, just because essentially it's not a large amount of data that I'm dealing with. If you are dealing with something approaching, over 120,000 transactions, this might be the time that you want to put the kettle on, depending how quick your hardware is. With me, again, because I've only got 5,088 transactions for the sake of this demonstration, it's going to be quite quick. So again, I appreciate this is going to be perfect world scenario. Your process may take a wee bit longer the first time that you run it. So no problems to report, which is always great. And then it'll continue to do the backup. Our backup has been successful. Superb. And now what it's doing is it's going through all of my transactions and it's finding out what can and can't be deleted. And it's fishing them out. And then it's coming up here saying, reviewing the transactions, 1,330 transactions have been removed that all met the specific criteria set out up until the specific date that I picked. What I would do as well is put a tick in this box that says view remove transactions. This is the report of what has been deleted. Click OK. Once you've clicked OK, it's going to generate that report for you. And that report is going to look like this. Let me just bring my 50 back. There we are. So in this report, you've got every single transaction that was deleted. This all met the criteria set out in the slide that I shared with you earlier. Therefore, everything is successfully gone. Superb. It's exactly what we wanted. So what we'll do is we will close that report. Again, if you create a little file on your desktop, you can pop that report in there. You may never need it, but it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Now you'll realize that that box for reconciliation has gone because we've turned the reconciliation off from those accounts. You can simply just close the tool. That's how quick and easy that was. And as long as you've got a backup, say if I've gone wrong there and I accidentally typed 2020-22 and I just wanted to do the process again, I would just go File, Restore, and I would select that backup from my desktop that I took. And that's going to restore the data back to what it was before I ran the process. It's brilliant. Now, if we go to Help and About, you'll see my transactions have gone down. to 3,803. My transaction number's gone up 5,133. And that is because we've performed an action. And we've performed an action that has created opening balance journals that I mentioned earlier. So we were up to, I believe, 5,088, weren't we? We were here. You can see all the journals it's created through the process to make sure that those opening balances are transferred across to the right place. Get Sage doing the majority of the legwork for you on that one. Very quick and easy process to perform this. So good question from Christine there was, is this a one-time chance to get this CAT report, the Clear Audit Trail report? I believe so, yes. I can double check that answer for you, but I believe it is. So that's why I would save it. It's best to have it, not needed and need to not have it. So if you do close it in error, then you could just restore the backup and do the process again. It's completely up to you, but I will double check that one for you. I'm 98% sure that is a one-time report that comes up there. Okay, superb. Then look through some of these questions here. Good question. A couple of questions coming from Louise there, which was, what reports would you generally run before doing this? And is this the same as data management? This is part of your data management tool. So in the webinar that I did a couple of days ago, last week actually, if you go to tools, period end, data management, it's part of that process. So you can see here, 3,803 transactions. Within the data management tool, you can do invoices, customers and suppliers as well, because Clear Audit Trail just affects the transactions in this area here, okay? So all it affects, if you wanted to do customer records, supplier records, etc., then use the data management tool. Really good question, that one. And the reports you generally run before doing this would be specific transactional reports, I would say. So any report linked to a transaction that you wanted before it's deleted, you would get from here. So if you wanted to do transactions lists or anything like that at all, before they're out of the live program, do the reporting on it. Remember, if you've taken a backup or an archive, you can run the reports in there as well. So fear not if you have forgotten to do them, as long as you do an archive or you've got that backup that you can restore, you'll still be able to run the reports, just not in your live data anymore because of the fact that you've deleted it out of there. Hopefully that makes sense. Superb. Right, so that was the demonstration. What next? Well, some of you might be saying, we've done this before and some of the transactions didn't clear. And I can be 100% certain when I say this, it's because somewhere along the lines, it doesn't meet the criteria that we talked about. What I would do is investigate that. So for example, in my transactions list, just like Peter is one I created earlier, you can see there's a few here for 2014. So what I would do is go along the top line. We call it the left to right. So read out the left to right of it. Transaction number 1. Okay. So gift date, no, that's fine. No. Project, that's fine. So it meets that date. Did it meet the date? Yes, because I said it to the 31st of the 12th, 2023. So the date was correct. Pretty sure of that one. And therein lies the problem. Has been paid. So it's open business, that. And you'll notice all these ones from 2014 all have ends next to them there because this business is still open. So what you'd need to do in this instance is get these cleared and paid off. Once that turns into a Y, you can see it's been VAT reconciled. Doesn't need to be bank rect as it's an SI and a PI. You can see all of these ones here. So we're not interested in the bank reconciliation. VAT reconciled, yes. Date range, yes. The one bit of criteria they're all missing is none of them have been paid. So in this instance, I know what the solution is and I will go away and I'll work through it. Now on the slide in front of you here, if you've downloaded the handout, there's a clickable link here. Why has Clear Audit Trail not removed some of the transactions? I'm not going to run the report that it generates, because essentially what happens is when you got this Help Center article, it gives you a templated report to put into your program. You then run that report, and it comes up with all the transactions, why they haven't cleared. Even though I've only got, 3,000 odd transactions now to run that process and run that report, we'd be sat here looking at a progress bar for the next 20 minutes. And in me doing something which you could honestly, genuinely do easier yourself, rather than watching. And to get instructions on that, I would go to that Help Center article. So download the handout, click on that link. If not, go to the Help Center, sage.co.uk/help, type in clear audit trail, and you're going to get an article that comes up, which is why haven't my transactions cleared? And once you've clicked on that link, there's going to be a step-by-step guide to show you how to install that report, run that report, and then it's just a case of working through the transactions that haven't been cleared. So the first time you do this, it might take longer than you want, but once it's done one time, it's going to be quicker the next time that you do it. Hopefully that makes sense. So circle back to the common questions. Have I got to? So recap, we can all answer no. We don't have to do that. There are reasons that we do it, but we don't have to do it. When should we do it and how often? Again, frequency is up to you. A lot of people do this at the year end and they clear off a year. It also helps to see what transactions maybe are still open from that year. So for example, now, who I was running my business in 2014, I've got questions to ask. Why haven't you been paid? So we can unearth some things for you. So yes, it does weed out some information within the program itself as well. So it is good practice to do so. Pros and cons, again, not to labor the point, smaller data set, easier to find things in, less needle in a haystack, quicker running reports potentially. Cons, it's the deleted transactions are no longer in your live data. Yes, they'll be in an archive or a backup, but they're not in that live data for you. So it depends on how much you're going to be clearing, put it that way. Questions wise, I think myself and Abby have handled quite a few of them. I'm just going to have a quick scroll through now and see. I can't see any outstanding. So just while we wait for the last ones to come through, obviously go to webinars for Sage 50 accounts and Sage 50 payroll, sage.co.uk/webinars. You get full details on what's up and coming in the webinar world, including up and coming badges. We're going to be running more and more and more of those in the future because we like to give something back, and you having that badge you can put on LinkedIn or Credible is, it's worth it essentially. I've seen a lot on LinkedIn. We always love to see these little Sage tiles on your profile. Feels like we've done something successful. So get the badge and display it as much as you possibly can do. And to register for future badging events, sage.co.uk/webinars. Abby is just answering the last question. And with that, what I'll do is thank you all for your attendance. You're going to get 12 minutes back. So cup of tea in that there for you. Please take one of those 12 minutes to complete the survey as you leave. We love to hear your feedback. We like to know how we can improve. We like to know what we did well. We do genuinely read every single comment that comes in back because that's how we move forward. We also take recommendations on what webinars you want to see, as well as a section there for you to complete. And if there's enough requests, we'll build it and deliver it. For example, the data management tool, the one that I ran last week, that was a request that came in often enough that we thought, right, we'll get it built. So that's exactly what we did. So Talia has asked a quick question there. So just before we end, the journals are just here, right at the bottom. I'm going to scroll right back down again. If my mouse would work properly. Never works when you want it to. But these are the journals here, as you can see. So from nominal code 4000, journal debit. And if we open that up, you can see a copy of that journal itself. So it's transaction number 5106. the opening balance has been keyed in automatically by Sage. It's just transferred across, and it's the same for any of the nominal codes where balances are required to be moved. And while I think of it, actually, while we've got a couple of minutes, what you could do is you could take a backup of your company before the clear audit trail, right? And then restore that into practice data and practice this on your data before you actually do it in your live version. Again, we've got a webinar on practice and demonstration data and how to use them, sage.co.uk/webinars. If you go there, it's actually me presenting it. You'll see how you can use practice data in order to run this process on your data, and you can see what it's going to look like before you do it for real. There we are. Right. That's the end of the questions. Everything has been answered. So again, if you could fill in that form for us, that'd be wonderful. Next section for the badging event is tomorrow, so hopefully you're all signed up for it then. If not, sage.co.uk/webinars, get yourself signed up, and hopefully we'll see you there. Apart from that, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye for now.